Okay, this is going to be a really quick video on how to use Workbench to delete an Apex class or even an Apex trigger from a production Salesforce org. So this isn't really something you'd have to use Workbench for if you were trying to delete these from a sandbox or even a dev org. Um, you can do within those orgs, you can do it directly within the UI, right? If you're viewing, um, let's say Apex class list from setup, as long as it's not manage package class or anything like that, you'll see a delete button right next to the class or the trigger you're trying to delete. When you're in production, the delete button's not there, right? You need help with whether it be Workbench or Visual Studio Code or maybe even the Ant migration tool. You need some help from another tool to get these types of metadata deleted. So um, that's kind of the purpose of this demonstration. So what I'll do for context, let me pull this over here. This is just a tab. I'm in a dev org, so I'm just going to pretend this is a production org where I don't actually have the delete button next to these custom classes that I've created in this org. So just keep that in mind. We're just going to pretend this is production. But basically, what I'm going to be focusing on, or trying to do, I should say, is I want to delete these two temperature converter classes from this org. So I'm going to get this tab out of here and let's get started. So step number one is we want to create a new folder. So I'm just going to create it on my desktop, and you can name it whatever. So Apex delete, that's what I'm going to name mine. That should work just fine for me. Step number two is we're basically prepping. We need to prep data, prep a couple of files, get them ready to go before heading over to Workbench and pushing our files into the org via Workbench. So that's kind of where these first couple of steps are coming into play. So we have our folder created. Now we need to create two different XML files inside of our folder. So to do that, I'm just going to use my notepad, but you can use whatever text editor you have on your computer. So I've done it with Visual Studio Code as well. So just, whatever you're most comfortable with. So we need to create two separate files. I'm just grabbing these from another tab that I have on another screen here. But once I put this video on YouTube, I'll paste these two files, the XML code for these files. I'll paste those maybe in the description of the video, somewhere where you guys can just copy and paste them easily without typing it out. So file number one, let's file and save as. And again, we want to put these two files inside of our Apex delete folder. So it looks like it just defaulted that for me as far as the location. So that's perfect. As far as their types go, so you want to flip this save as type field to all files. And we want to give it a name of package.xml. So the naming as well as the type is really important for these two files. So that's it for file number one. Now we'll go ahead and file new. We'll create our second file. Again, I'm just going to pull over that code from another screen here, paste that in. So before we save file number two, just a couple of things I wanted to note. So you can see it has two different types, right? This first one, it's named Apex class, and there's two different members, class 1 and class 2. And the second type is named Apex trigger, and again, it has two different members, trigger 1 and trigger 2. This is almost just like a template you can use, and I liked this template because it just kind of highlights how we can use this single file to delete multiple Apex classes, multiple triggers, all at the same time. So for this demonstration, I'm just going to get rid of the Apex trigger type because we're just focusing again on those two classes that I want to delete. And you just add as many classes as you want. Just make sure each class is its own member within the Apex class type in your second file. So I'm just going to replace class 1 and class 2 with the names of, I'll pull them over here just to keep you guys in the loop. I'm just going to paste in the name of those 2 temperature converter classes, right? So we'll grab this one, paste that there, and then the second one, paste that there. So now I've got my 2 classes in file number 2 and I'm ready to go. So I'll save this, file, save as. Again, we want it saved in our Apex delete folder. That's perfect. I'm going to move this over just to get it out of the way. Okay, so again, naming convention and the type, just as important as with file number 1. So we want to flip the type to all files. And for file number 2, I'm just going to copy the name I have and paste it in. So destructivechanges.xml, the name, even the capitalization is important. So just keep that in mind and we'll save that. So I can get close out file number 2 here, and I'm going to go into my Apex delete folder. We're almost done. So the last part we have to do is, because we're using Workbench, maybe this is the same, the same case with any other tool you're trying to use for this, but Workbench accepts zips only, zip folders. So we basically now just have to create a zip folder and save it so that we can, upload that to Workbench. So within my Apex delete folder, I'm going to highlight both of my files. I'm going to right click. I'm going to hover over send to, and I'm going to select compressed zip folder. And you can see that just created a zip folder with these 2 files inside of it, and I'm going to name it package. So my zip folder is named package, and just to show you guys, if I open up the package folder, I have my two files. So that's it as far as kind of getting the data ready to go, and the setup that you're going to have to do on your computer. It's really simple and hopefully quick. So I'll close out of my folder, and now we're going to get into Workbench. So I'm going to pull over my Workbench tab, production. That's exactly what I want because I'm in a dev org. And again, I'm pretending it's a production org. So production is certainly the environment. You also have the option to do sandbox. And I'm going to select login with Salesforce. Now, because I'm already logged into that the dev org, you can see it didn't even ask me for credentials or anything like that. You may be prompted to enter credentials, and of course, self-explanatory. You're going to want to put your production org credentials in. But once you are logged into Workbench, we're going to hover over the migration tab here at the top, and we'll click deploy. And we have to choose a zip file to deploy. So we're going to select this choose file button. And you want to make sure it is the zipped folder, so our package folder. Now, as far as these settings go, full disclosure, I haven't really messed around on using a lot of them, so I can't really speak to them. I do know that if you select check only, that kind of comes into play here with these test options. So check only, if we did next and basically tried to deploy these changes with our package.zip folder, nothing would actually happen, or in our case be deleted. It's almost like, as far as I understand it, it's almost like validating a change set. You're just kind of making sure and seeing if what you're trying to deploy would work without actually committing any of the changes. So I'm going to leave that one set to false because I do want to move forward and totally get these classes deleted. And then the only other 2 settings I've ever had to use, and every single time based on just documentation I've read and other videos I've seen, you want to set these both to true. So rollback on error and single package. So that's pretty much it as far as configuring the settings for this deployment. And another thing I wanted to mention here was test level and run tests. So right now, you can see it's kind of defaulting to no test run. I think just based on my experience, that's fine to do, and something I typically will choose as far as that option goes if I'm doing this in a sandbox. I've kind of tested this process a couple times in the sandbox, even though I don't really have to because we can delete right from the UI. But no test run is, um, in my experience, I would say an okay option for a sandbox. Now, in our case, again, I'm kind of doing a dummy deploy. This is supposed to be to production, right? So everything I've read and seen and heard is I haven't tried I haven't tried doing no test run for production, but everything I've seen is it requires at least one test class to be run in order to push a deletion via Workbench um, into production, right? So in our case, I'm going to select run specified tests. And you know what? Before I do that, let me just highlight these other ones. So I mentioned earlier with this check only, it's almost like you're, validating a change set, kind of a similar, at least from my understanding, it's kind of a similar process. So that's kind of what the test level is too. Like if you selected run all tests in org, I believe, I don't know the specific name of the option when you're validating a change set, but I think you can select run all tests. And if you've done that before, that validation, it's going to take quite a while if your org has a lot of different Apex test classes. So for this purpose, for this demonstration, I'm not going to select run all tests in the org because it's going to do exactly what it's saying and it might take a little bit of time. So I'm just going to click run specified tests. And we just need one, right? So what I'm going to do is pull over my Apex class tab again, and I'm just going to select a totally unrelated. In the past, I've just kind of selected a test class that's unrelated and one that'll run quickly, and maybe there isn't too much to it. So I know this test class will run quickly, so I'm just going to paste that one in, and that's pretty much it. So I'll click next. You can see we're basically getting a warning letting us know, hey, this is final. You're trying to delete some metadata. Yep, that's okay with us. So we'll hit deploy. And now it kind of just brings us to the status page. So you can see the status right now is in progress. And just like that, it succeeded. So this same status page, if you actually, which I think is pretty cool, if we go to, taking a little bit of time to load here, but if we go to, I think deployment status, you can actually see, just like, again, I mentioned change set a couple times here, you can see the deployment succeeded, right? So this would be the one, and it aligns with 1235. Yep, so that's the one that ran. Now, if I go back to my Apex class list, and these were the two classes I was trying to delete, right? So now if I refresh the page, we're going to see both of the test converter classes have been deleted. So that's pretty much it. It's a really quick, easy process, and yeah, hopefully this video helps and makes things a little bit easier for you guys when you're trying to delete some of this metadata from your production org.